Hello everyone and welcome to this exam tips video for paper P4 Advanced Financial Management relevant to the March 2018 exams. You must be in your last leg of preparation for your exams, doing loads of exam questions to time, and you might want a few tips on what topics to do some final reviews on. Quite naturally, what the examiner does is unknown to everyone. He could test absolutely anything in the exam, but it obviously helps to prepare a bit more and be absolutely certain about some core areas on P4, which is what I'm going to list out. And this is driven by what's remained largely under-examined over the past few sittings and is still core to P4. Adjusted present value, or APV, is an area that's not been tested for a very, very long time, and it's so easy to tag on an element of working with betas to de-gear and calculate the ungeared cost of equity using CAPM, or to do an M&M2 formula for cost of equity alongside that and build a calculation around that. So APVs is definitely an area to watch out for. Besides that, please be prepared to tackle some questions on valuation. Now, this could typically be a free cash flow or a PE ratio valuation. If it is a free cash flow valuation, there will be some marks for quantifying the cost of capital or the cost of equity, depending on whether you're using free cash flows to entity or equity method. And in getting to WACC, you could be given a complex proxy company. You could be asked to de-gear. There may be a merger scenario, a demerger scenario. So be prepared to work with betas, re-gear, de-gear, combine businesses, demerge businesses, and finally get to the KE or the WACC. In terms of risk management, the examiner almost every single time does a standard interest rate risk or a foreign exchange risk question. Make sure you know how to work with futures, options, money market hedges and forwards in Forex. And in the case of interest rate risk, please make sure you're completely thorough with futures, options, FRAs, collars as an add-on, and also interest rate swaps. You could have a question from one of these. And the good thing about these questions is these are standard. You've practiced a couple of questions. You know the process. You've just got to identify the type of question and follow the process. You should make sure you also review some theoretical elements and know how to apply the Black-Scholes option pricing model. That's also not been heavily tested in the recent past. Please be aware that it's not just quantifying the value of real options or value of a share option. You could also be asked to talk about a particular aspect, maybe the Greeks, such as the gamma, delta, theta, and so on, or it could be a discussion on how BSOP can be used to value real options, or the factors influencing the value of options. So be prepared to do some discussion elements related to Black-Scholes option pricing as well. Besides this, other standard topics that you might want to review, which do get tested, not for a huge amount of marks, but for probably somewhere between 5 and 12 marks, or things like Islamic finance. Make sure you know the various instruments. Further, other aspects like CDOs, collateralized debt obligations, and role of treasury, whether treasury should be centralized, decentralized, what role do they play, role of some trade organizations globally, like World Trade Organizations and IMF and so on. So knowing all of these simple bits can help you score some marks when these are add-ons to larger questions. In the context of mergers and acquisitions, please also make sure you go through the theory behind it, namely the reasons why companies go for acquisitions rather than organic growth, defenses against takeover, the various defenses and how they work, as well as the merits and demerits of different forms of cash payments and the regulatory principles behind mergers and acquisitions. One final thing to add on to this would be you should be prepared to calculate dividend capacity of a company and be able to comment on different dividend policies and the merits and demerits of each dividend policy. So if you're fairly comfortable with all of these elements, you should be able to tackle majority of the exam. Remember, it's not about knowing the topic alone. It's about time management. It's about execution. Make sure you're very, very religious with the time allocated to each question. Have a plan before you go into the exam. Make a decision on which question you're going to try and do first, and stick to it. Stick to the time limits. And a large part of preparing for that would be to try enough exam questions to time in the next week or so before your exam. I wish you all the very best, and irrespective of how challenging or easy your exam is, you will pass if you do a reasonable job. So believe in yourself and do your best. I wish you all the very best. Good luck.